Good evening, everyone, and a really, really warm welcome and a happy new year. I think we can still say that, but I'm going to say it anyway. And I just want to remind everyone, if you're new, you're very welcome to come into camera. You're not going to be on YouTube or anything, but if you want to share also any comments in the chat, any questions as we go through. But first, it would be lovely to know where you're connecting from, because I know we can be from all around the world. And I'd like to just share a little bit about this topic, time to change me. Apparently, January is the month that employees are most likely to think about changing jobs. And I know myself, I went through these thoughts quite often this time of year. But this feeling of newness is also empowering and resolutions, but sometimes we perhaps need power to put into practice or into place some of these changes. And George Bernard Shaw said, "Those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything." But this is an interesting aspect in self-transformation. So I hope today you will be inspired and also entertained. We have two really experienced practitioners of meditation. I'll just introduce, we have Louisa Gupta, who was brought up in Scotland and lived for 25 years with her husband and two children in India. Came into contact with the organization Brahma Kumaris, moved back to Edinburgh in the late 90s and coordinates the centre's activities where she resides. And almost opposite, in a sense, Wendy was born in England in the 40s and now is living outside of the UK in Rome. But her quite colourful past, part of the Olympic ski team for Great Britain in the early 60s, dancer, choreographer in the 70s, found Brahma Kumaris in the early 80s, and set up the activities, the first centre in Italy, which was in Rome in 1984, and has been teaching, sharing ideas in Italy and abroad ever since. So I think we would love to hear now from yourselves, and perhaps we can first go to Edinburgh. And a warm welcome. I don't know if it's chillier than here, but it's been quite mild actually. So a warm welcome to Louisa.
Thank you. And Om Shanti. No, it's not that cold. It has been. The temperatures go up and down. And so first of all, very best wishes for this new year, which promises to be full of excitement, I think. Anyway, so newness and change. Well, I think it's something that can be viewed with ambivalent feelings, because we like newness, but at the same time, we can fear it. Supposing something happens, there's change that comes that's for the worse. And especially as we look around these days, we see huge amount of changes, and we don't know how these changes are happening. It's like almost every minute, every second, there's something that's out of the ordinary, isn't there? There is nothing that's stable anymore. It used to be, there was the saying, as solid as the Bank of England. Well, maybe. So I think change is something that we definitely do want if the situation is dire enough. But then very often, if the situation is very comfortable, then why should we change? It's difficult to move out of our comfort zones, isn't it? But now we're in situations where I think it's becoming clearer that if we want to see change on the outside, we have to look inside. And actually, this is what Raj Yoga is all about, I think. It's all about change, that we're in the age of transformation of one kind or another, an age of change, that we understand that the old order is moving away and the new order is coming. But we have to make that ourselves. And that's the whole idea of looking within, isn't it? To look at a deeper level. And I know over the years that I have been practicing Raj Yoga, it has been like different layers have been peeled away, that I never realized that I needed to face something in myself, because personal change does mean that I have to be willing to look at myself and face the things that I have to change, that needs to be changed. And so there has to be an awareness, I think, first of all, what needs to be changed, because very often I'm not aware of these things that need to be changed. I know when I had a very rocky relationship with my son, he was always very angry with me for some reason or other, and I could never understand why that was the case. And then I thought, well, God hasn't given up on me, so why should I give up on him? There must be something within that I need to look at. And after quite some time of introspection and conversations, I became aware that I'm not really listening properly. And I think that's probably one of the challenges that many people have, is that they're not listening to other people, not listening to themselves, and not listening to other people. But other people are maybe saying something, but that's not what they mean. They mean something else. So it was quite an eye-opener for me, and I started paying much more attention. And then, of course, the relationship with my son improved hugely. And I become much more aware of looking at details. Another challenge that I think very often affected me, and I'm sure a lot of other people too, is how to really listen and accept other people, and to change your vision of them. Because if someone has done something that you don't like, then you tend to hold on to that vision. And so my New Year resolution is that I really must change my vision and attitude. Everything's okay, everyone's okay, that no matter what or who comes in front of me, there's something to learn. There's something that I really need to discover, because that's, again, going back to Raj Yoga, that's what Raj Yoga is all about, is the study, learning new things about the self and new things about the world and about people, about everything that we need to learn. And I do feel that this is making a difference, because everything's to do with energy. And if I can change the energy within, then that has to have an effect. So maybe I'll stop there and hand over to you.
Thank you, and it would be lovely to come back to you on how this vision change works, and how to also be alert so that we don't become vulnerable, but at the same time I feels very fresh, not coming with the old baggage to new situations, new people. So appreciation for that, and this new order of things. Coming out of our comfort zones, I think we have a lot of experience from. Wendy, she's probably come out of quite a few comfort zones over the years. It would be lovely to hear from you on this topic. Warm welcome.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's very, very pleasant to be here. This is the time of year where we generally do our New Year's resolutions, but a lot depends on, I think, the years are different, I notice. I notice the years go by, but it has to be very personal always. And what is my personal reaction to what's actually going on? And that can be the going on within my close relationships. It can be the going on within society, what's going on outside. And I'm realizing that around, you see, being a teacher, I also feel very much like what is it that the students are going to be needing this year that they maybe wouldn't have thought of needing last year? So that there is not only my needs, but it's in a certain sense their needs too. And looking outside, I mean, we have all been under a certain amount of, quite a lot of stress, I think. Things have not been the way we hoped. Italy is particularly, quite rigid about all the COVID rules and regulations. And so my New Year's resolution this year was basically can be reassumed in saying, be kind to yourself. And I have a tendency, I must admit, to have the Olympic spirit and go for high aims and objectives in my New Year's resolutions. And it's going to be wonderful, and I'm going to be the top of the class sort of thing, But this year, I really had a different feeling. And I thought, just see what it is that can make you a warmer, more feeling person who can make other people feel at ease. And I was thinking, well, the first thing is, I'm going to have to be at ease myself and learn to love myself, because you can't give to others what you don't have in yourself. You have to develop yourself. And then it sort of vibrates out. And I was thinking, right now in winter, and the weather is not that bad in Rome, actually. It's cold at times, but it's sunny quite often. And I think, what can be, for me, what would it mean to find my recipe of what you might call the chicken soup for the soul? What would my recipe be? And I think we all have our own personal recipes as to what will make us feel good. And maybe a walk in nature, maybe I love anything to do with animals. I like music. And so I have used this year recently to face situations of physical pain, for example. I find that these going towards these things that particularly please me have a wonderful effect on the body and can help me cope with pain, which is a surprising thing because I've never had this happen before. So change, I think, is very much interacting with the state of the situation for me right now and the state of what's going on outside, And so checking my own resilience, for example. How resilient have I been and what have I learned from myself this year? And what can I use for next year? What is going to be useful? And use what lifts me up, what can make me feel really happy. And if you are content, I think, with your own efforts, this contentment makes you feel very easygoing with other people, because nobody has had it easy this year. Let's be honest, nobody has. So it makes you feel very sort of warm and friendly towards everybody else. There's all this brotherly, sisterly feeling that we're all very much, I think, very different, but we're all very much in the same boat. And so I was thinking it was very important for me to look at what makes me tick. What are my inner rules, my inner values? What is important to me? And these can come from my family, or it can come from my culture or religion, or particularly in this case for a spiritual path, And these are rules, especially that what I want to look at this year is to what an extent are these rules outside rules that I think are good, or are they rules that I have taken on and have become inner rules? And what are they? Because we don't all run by the same rule book. We've been offered rules. Culture has offered rules. I see the culture is very different. We've been offered rules by our religion, by our family, and by a spiritual path. But what rule book am I following actually? Because, you're not going to be following much something that you think is a good idea, but that you haven't really taken on. And so the desire to look at that and become more myself, because if you follow your own inner rule book, you are being very honest with yourself, and you're being very close to yourself. And this is a feeling of integrity in a certain sense. This is how I feel it. There is no discomfort. I mean, if you go against your own inner rules for whatever reason, you will find great discomfort. And you can't do that regularly. You can't do that regularly without actually being quite destructive to yourself. So I was seeing the necessity to really take on and look at the rules or the spiritual laws that I want to take on for myself, the value system that I believe in, and become a more integrated person for myself. So I think that's what I want to do this year, and be more flexible, easygoing, more flexible with other people, and more willing, in a certain sense, to put a hand out in accordance with what might be the needs. So there we are.
I think both of you are striking on this connection and relationship with others, and how to bring more integrity to the self, but from the self, but also giving that respect and facilitating that healthy connection when we are in interaction. So I wonder what comes up for Louisa hearing that, and if anything you want to add. But I also have a question. If we have had a history with a person, sometimes spirituality comes across to people as passive, but I know that it's not. But what would you say to someone who says, people can do anything and we just become spiritual and silent? Would be nice to hear, while you're maintaining that fresh vision, how you might act also when sometimes we do need to assert ourselves or put something right. So if you have any comments, it'd be lovely to hear from you.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is balance. And this is something that I learned from our self-esteem course. When I came over to UK, to Scotland from India, there were several courses on offer, and I was very interested to look at them and see what benefit there would be for myself. And one aspect in the self-esteem course is balancing up different qualities, like the strength. If it's not balanced with humility, it can become forceful. And I think while definitely we do have to keep our own self-respect and you can say, confidence up. But at the same time, I really think it helps to know the bigger picture. Certainly for me, that if I didn't have an idea of the bigger picture, that I see in front of me just nothing but chaos, then I would be panicking. I would be doing things that maybe I would regret. But here we learn in Raj Yoga to understand, to be detached from all the scenes that are going on, and to not to be unsympathetic, to be sympathetic, but at the same time to be very practical and to see what is the best way forward. I don't know if that answers, or if you can get an answer to your question, because of course in many aspects each situation is on its own merits, and what may hold good for one situation may not hold good for another.
That's very true. The feeling of when we have the bigger picture, then we don't sweat the small stuff as well, so it doesn't get out of proportion, and lots of things are actually small stuff. You can get kind of caught up with things. And how about Wendy? Anything come up for you at this discussion in interactions, and how we move forward, letting go of the past but holding our own integrity, as you were mentioning earlier?
Just thinking, I mean, listening to Louisa, I was just thinking about how it's good to wonder how other people see you, because you can come over, if you are following, I mean, a spiritual path, you can come over as a spiritual zealot, like you could be a religious zealot. And of course, in Italy, that would not, a lot depends on where you're living and who you're talking to. Cultures are very different in this way. I mean, as you will have noticed, I don't put it on an official way, the way I talk. I take it more from my own personal experience, because there is that fear, in a certain sense, for other people of, especially in Italy, where the Catholic religion is so strong, of having something else imposed upon them, which is the last thing in the world they want. And they have to look for what they want and take what they desire to take from what you have to offer, rather than you pushing it on them, And so this will change your attitude, I think. Being very sort of, having lived constantly in foreign countries, you're very aware of the different cultures and the different ways of being. I mean, I went to the doctor today, and I was in the doctor's surgery, of course, queuing in my space, like social distancing, etc. And someone was quite upset about whatever was going on with her dossier, and she was shouting and screaming. Now, this is absolutely normal in Italy. I mean, there's a lot of this going on. And, as I moved forward in the line, it was my natural instinct to, talk extremely respectfully and very calmly and sort of bring the vibration down. So I think you end up trying to be the sample of what you have to offer, literally, And if people are attracted to that, rather than something you might be saying, because people can then get onto a very intellectual tangent and get very intellectual about things, and you've actually lost contact with the soul who is needy. They've gone up here. So these are my experiences that I have at times.
Well, I suppose there's a lot of insecurity, isn't there? There's a lot of feeling of that things are so insecure, and that makes people behave in even odder ways, perhaps. I don't know if that's any more in Italy than here.
Well, I haven't, of course, I haven't traveled much for the last 2 years. But knowing the character of the Italians and knowing the character of the English, I would say that, the Italians tend to be very expressive, and they will fly off the handle very quickly. Let's put it that way. And so it's quite stormy. It can be quite stormy at times at the moment, because there is an enormous amount of insecurity and really unjustified requests. This whole situation has got people on edge. I mean, to give you an idea, I mean, I can't even take now a city bus because I'm not vaccinated. I can't take a city bus. So I can't move unless I walk or I take a taxi. So these are the sort of pressures that people are on, apart from the fear. You see, people are absorbing an enormous amount of fear through this thing. And this is something that we need to see just how much fear am I absorbing, and what am I doing to counteract that? And what am I doing to overcome other people's fear and help them? And to me, what came out in my sort of New Year's resolution thought was stability. Stability is the one thing that you need. You really need, I feel, really need stability at the moment, so that people can come and, just rest upon a vibration at the center, and then feel better. Not that you've said anything maybe, but that they just feel better.
Yes, I think that's here too. There's a lot of fear and suspicion, and definitely this is where the practice of meditation, even any kind of meditation, is very good, but especially this Raj Yoga meditation, that it helps to keep us stable, as you were saying. It helps to keep that inner feeling of it's okay, and developing a kind of buffer, so that these vibrations that are floating about and really becoming more and more intense, I think, don't penetrate, or if they do, you're able to handle them.
Yeah. People are very receptive. They're receptive. They don't. They're afraid of coming to the center, but they're very receptive. And they're receptive. I mean, during the first lockdown, during the first 2 lockdowns, actually, one of our brothers was doing readings from Baba's books, from the Brahma Kumaris books, and online at 5 a.m, between 5 and 6. And these were people that hadn't slept all night. They were not people that belonged to the Brahma Kumaris or anything. They were listening in, and they enjoyed it. It was an extraordinary realization of what people's needs might be and how different they might be at different times. Mm.
Yes, well, definitely, I think taking support from the divine is really, I don't know how people manage without some sort of faith, of some sort of feeling of security, that even if it's you feel your guardian angel is around, then that really is very comforting.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the people who have a very strong guiding light in their lives, whatever that may be, it may be family values, it may be what they've got around them, it may be actually the work they do, that they dedicate their soul to. But it's very important to have that. I mean, obviously, if you're following a spiritual path, you will be taking that sustenance from the divine, and you're extremely lucky to have that opportunity. I mean, it's very, very clear that the fortune that we have if we have that kind of sustenance.
I was sort of wondering that how, because we know that change, and people are aware that change is necessary. But how can you know that what the right sort of change has to be employed? Because people focus so much on the external, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the whole game that's going on is, I would say, like everything that people are used to, their freedoms, travel, for example, or meeting people, have been restricted recently. And so they've gotten to a point where they'll do anything to get those freedoms back. But you have to be very careful that maybe while you're doing that, you're not really following what you really need to do to be stable. I mean, it's things are not going to go back to normal, I don't think. I mean, that's my own feeling. This has been going on for altogether too long. I mean, there's going to be a relief in the situation, no doubt, at some point in the future. But I don't think we're going back to the old normal. And when things do open up, what is my response going to be able to travel again, and how well am I dealing with isolation, which is one of the situations that we have that is very, very prevalent at the moment. People are isolated from their families, or they're isolated in a certain way. They're isolated when they work, because they work from home very often. I mean, how am I handling that? What is what has ever always been my relationship with myself? And how at ease am I when I am just facing me and maybe a computer, It makes us check. I think that you have to check on the line. I mean, I'm seeing this. Anybody who has developed themselves and a relationship with the self, I think, has found themselves very at ease. I mean, certain people, fascinating, have chosen the lockdowns to develop something specific, like playing the piano or something. I mean, that's absolutely wonderful. If you actually can make something out of it, try and make something out of whatever is happening, find the silver lining to the crusty outside, it can be something very, very, sustaining. You can really feel enthusiastic about a thing like that. Making the best of what there is. There are all kinds of things that, I certainly would have never thought of if there'd not been this situation going on outside. Making the best of what there is maybe I would have found very limiting, but right now I find that it's quite stimulating, the idea of making the best of what there is. Because you tend to go out to look for something new, but what you really do have is what's there, whatever that may be.
I remember when I was traveling in the Far East, and I knew I was looking for something which was deeper than I had ever experienced before, sort of a reconnection to an inner truth, and finding myself wanting to make the most of situations. And I think many people kind of know the change that they should put into place, but it's the power to do it. So it'd be lovely to hear from you both how to empower ourselves to do those things, as you say, make the best of what there is, to come back to enjoy our own company. And it is secret, I think, is in this meditation, but also someone might not have the faith in something higher. I know myself was quite allergic actually to the word God. Since then I've come to understand the spiritual model, but because of religion I was a little disappointed in a sense that it was brought in, but afterwards understanding that it is not the God of religion. So I'm aware that some people may come with those feelings, but would be lovely to hear, what do you feel is the way to gain the power to put into place what the change is that is of benefit to the self? I don't know who would like to share on that.
Well, I think it's helpful to know what can be changed and what can't be changed. Because there's certain things that can't be changed, it's the effect of time. And that's part of the problem that Wendy was talking about. We can't go back to a new normal. And whether people was expecting or hoping that things wouldn't take the turn that they have. But it's now, we have to deal with the change that's happened, isn't it? And I think one of the biggest problems is people want to change what can't be changed. And as Wendy was saying, that what can be changed, what's inside of us, that we can change the negativities. But then it goes back to, if I'm willing to look at myself and to really face all the things going on inside that are causing me sorrow, because what is it that causes sorrow is what I'm thinking about, and all this fear is causing a huge amount of sorrow. But when we are able to focus on the positive qualities of the self, and this is something that has been said before, that gratitude, for example, I focus on what I'm grateful for in my life, that develops a positive energy and can help hugely. And I think it's really essential that if humanity doesn't really take a balanced look at what's going on, then nature will force us to look at what's going on. And instead of all the calamities that are happening, that nature's trying to tell us something. There are the laws of nature, the laws of karma, and ignorance is no excuse in front of the law, and it's true for spiritual laws. So sooner or later, I think we're all going to have to face up to the hard facts that I have to personally make a change, and the sooner the better.
I like the idea of the feeling of gratitude. I think that looking back on the past, which you tend to do in a situation like where you don't move around as freely as before, you tend to look at the past and wonder what you made of it. And being grateful, I think, is one of those qualities that are on the love spectrum. Gratitude is can be incredibly close to love. I remember my parents saying to me something that I had difficulty in understanding when I was very young. They'd say, be grateful for your lot, even if it's not a lot. Well, of course, now it amuses me, but at the time, I was finding it complicated to understand. But I think they're right. Whatever it is that you have, it's like all of us are almost precious jewels inside, and outside there's a sort of like a jewel box that is all crusty and torn and broken and ripped apart, and we tend to see that and want to repair that. But I don't think that is repairable, really. I mean, I think we can go beyond it. And just work with what's inside. And I would really like to be my own best me, whatever that would mean, not comparing myself with anybody else, just maybe looking in the mirror of the divine and seeing what can I reflect of divine perfection. In my limited capacity, what can I reflect of the divine? And I think that would already be very satisfying as a change in me.
Okay, what would you say is the biggest obstacle for bringing about change or newness? Because it's...
I don't know. I think, clinging to our old ways, basically out of wanting to protect the self, and basically out of comfort zones, and basically out of maybe arrogance at what you also created. Because, I mean, we created it and functioned with it for many, many years, and it worked very well for many, many years. The problem is that things change. The world changes. We're changing. And so we have to find something new. And I think there is a reticence to make that kind of an effort. I mean, I'm really honestly, I mean, it's much easier to go along with the good old ways, and of course, obviously, we've been blocked and can't go with the good old ways that we always did in a more sort of free fashion. You can't walk around and do what you wanted like you did before. Well, maybe just bringing us up short like this is making us think. The important thing is not what we do and how much we run around or how much we travel. The important thing is who we are as living beings, and what do we have as a vibration to add to the positivity that, let's say, the charge of positivity that the world needs. I mean, there's an enormous amount of need for just goodwill, compassionate, positive energy. And, you're not going to get it on trees, I mean, this is the problem. You've got to create it yourself, each one of us. And each one of us can, there's no doubt about that.
What would you say, Louisa, to this question that you posed? And do you have any comments on what was said?
Yes. Well, what is change after all in the first place? I suppose it's a natural progression that we all get older, everything gets older. And perhaps it's just wanting to hang on to things that are comfortable, and why not, in a way? Why should I not cling on to things that are comfortable? But then I think the biggest obstacle is, in a way, ignorance. Ignorance, by and large. Now, in Raj Yoga, we do learn many things that help us to face change within and to accept what is without. But the majority of people in the world, I think, are not aware of this age that we're in, which is actually an age of benefit. I know of one or two astrologers who are talking about the whole universe is upgrading and seeing a very positive aspect to the times that we're in. But it's to raise this awareness, I think, and to help people see the need for inner change.
I think really and truly a lot does depend on the way you see things like that. I mean, listening, of course, I must admit I'm terribly intrigued at this whole situation, this whole pandemic. But I have heard scientists and doctors saying, but viruses are things that have been going on for thousands of years. They've always been there. And they upgrade you, like what you're talking about, this upgrading of what needs to happen. It's an upgrade. It's a moment of upgrading. And it's like there's a refusal of this change, which, of course, obviously will weed out the non-upgradable. Now, the same thing is going on the spiritual level. We need to be willing to upgrade. And I think if we are willing to upgrade, there is a brave new world that will emerge from that upgrading. But it's, it's not a physical thing. It's not easy to, you can't just roll your sleeves up and get into it. It's something much more subtle.
Yeah.
What comes to mind is listening to the sharing, the story of the eagle, that there was an eagle egg put with the chickens in the chicken coop to protect it from the fox, and it grew up with the chickens thinking it was also a chicken, and then some stage sees the eagle in the sky and is, wow, what is that? But his psychology is of being a chicken, and everyone else is, you're a chicken. So this comfort zone feels like the chicken coop, and the upgrade maybe is like eagle is discovering his truth and able to start maybe to learn to use the wings. And so I guess the caution when it comes to spirituality is we don't try to become a better chicken, and or the positivity is of the kind of the upgrade level rather than positivity in the chicken coop. So which is so profound, isn't it? Like you brought this aspect of divinity, so that is perhaps this flying and the freedom to see that higher view, that bigger picture from the eagle, from that. So it'd be nice to hear, how do we discriminate that we are upgrading the eagle, not upgrading the chicken?
Well,
Yes.
Look to the sky. You can't look, scratching around in the dirt's not going to help us, I don't think. But we need compassion, because we're living the way we are, and it's not always that easy. It could easily get worse, Am I ready for it? And can I be aware of what's going on and yet trust in what I see in the future? Trust in, like the eagle looked up, the little eagle, and you have to trust what you see in the sky, not what you see on the ground. If you're going to create something great, I mean, you can't create something by looking at what you've already got. You've got to create something new.
Yes, and I think also it's being, as you said, Wendy, being a better you. If I can, if I've got an idea about my higher self, and I can keep that in front of me, and I make a determined effort to be true to myself, what in Raj Yoga, of course, we call soul consciousness, that I'm really a soul with all the positive, innate positive qualities, but do I live up to that? And to try and be as approach my higher self, which requires observation of how I think and how I see and how I react.
Yeah, definitely. Because ultimately, all you have to work with is yourself. You can't work on other people. You can work with other people, but you can't work on them, And you whatever you can see is probably going to change, transform, I hope.
This energy for transformation is something that you've both obviously reflected on for several decades. So you are still really it's like a new topic, as if. So it'd be lovely to hear your secret in this fresh, sustaining energy in your in this endeavor for newness and change. What is it that perhaps a quality that you know in yourself, but perhaps also that you've seen in others, because of course we are meeting many others who are also on a spiritual journey. What is that quality that is a great quality that we can bring out in ourselves in moving forward on our journey of transformation. Balance was mentioned by Louisa earlier, which was so nice. So every quality has its sort of opposite, but I don't know if you have a particular one that you come back to.
Well, I think it really is focusing and understanding, reflecting on what it means to be a soul. That is not having any of the add-ons of ego or anger or greed, lust, attachment, and to really focus on that, and also to focus on the relationship with the Supreme Being. They say that 80% people have some sort of faith. And if that faith takes on the aspect of trying to make the self better, I would say definitely explore that, explore the spiritual side of the self, and explore the relationship with the Supreme Being. And finally, to understand this drama that we're in, to explore and study.
Feels like we're sort of being lifted up to our highest potential that perhaps I know myself was like inconceivable, this idea that we can be in the world, not of the world, in a practical way and be of support to others, as you've both highlighted, to be able to give from a space of stability. And there's so much to learn. So I can see this essence you've brought out just simply in being a soul, a spirit, and this secret within that simple aspect is like a love for a lifetime to explore. So it's so nice. And what about yourself, Wendy? Is there something that you would highlight on this journey?
I think there's a big difference between what my, in a certain sense, ambitions were when I was younger and what my ambitions would be now. It's that, you know, like I wanted to make a mark in the world and have, do whatever I could that I wanted to do when I was younger. But now I have more that feeling that there needs to be a change in such a way that all can. It does not only got to do with me. I don't know how to express it. It's other people, it's other continents, everything. It's animals too. I believe there needs to be definitely an upgrade on all levels, and that can only happen through subtle energy. And of course, you know, you in spirituality, you will turn to the source of subtle energy, which is the source of love and peace. And you can call that God or the Supreme Being or whichever way you feel more at ease with. But that is where it's going to come from. And we can express those qualities if we let go of what I would call our limitations, which are the more negative sides, the more possessive sides, the more selfish sides of our nature. And I think selfishness is something to combat. I mean, I, you know, probably was incredibly selfish as a younger person, you know. I had my ambitions and I went towards them and I didn't think of anything else. When you're young, you possibly have more that tendency. But now it's very definitely, I don't think I'd be happy just being in my own best stage, all on my own. Other people have to be with me, which means it's very important for other people to get on the bandwagon too, in a certain sense. Other people have got to be with me. It's a mass movement, that's got to happen. And I mean, everybody, you know, even the people that are not immediately involved will be involved by the general movement upwards. And this, I think, is what is stimulating me now.
Einstein wrote that once we accept our limits, we go beyond them. So it's almost like once we identify the limitation in our thinking, we can then discern and consciously choose to come beyond it. And yes, this aspect that we are definitely all in it together, and more so now than ever. It's at every level. Something that came in the chat, a comment that the thoughts that come to mind, to be grateful for even the small things in life. And she read, or I think life begins at the end of our comfort zone, and it gave us something to think about. Nice point. So I see an hour has gone really, really quickly, but I wondered if perhaps Louisa would like to share a few words to for reflection on this subject. But before that, if Wendy would like to, if you have anything final to share, maybe a take home, could be a slogan or something that we can keep with us, that that might, in a nutshell, what is this we can keep in our mind in an easy way to keep this change alive through the year, not just for January.
I think if we really do move forward and up, I don't think we've seen nothing yet. I think it's going to be fascinating. We generally think, you know, it could be awful or it could be this or that, the future. But I think if we all put our best foot forward and the best me forward, we've seen nothing yet. It'll be surprising. Really
interesting, intriguing, and somehow it feels intuitively right as well. But certainly we get the fragrance of spirituality. It is like a more of a revelation of this highest potential. So it'd be lovely to hear from you, Louisa, if there's anything you would like to add, and then also some reflective thoughts would be great.
Well, just a very short phrase which helps me, I find a lot, is let go and let God. I don't know how it translates into other languages, but I really like that, and it's very helpful for me when I am getting a little bit edgy about the way things are going or not going. Everything is beneficial in some way or other.
And thank you. It's sort of a easy one, and even if we haven't necessarily got the concept, it's like intriguing us to reflect on it further. So yeah, Louisa, would you like to share any of your, maybe a short commentary? It can be 2-3 minutes.
Okay.
Great.
Well, first of all, sitting comfortably. Just let the body relax and sink into the chair. So turn the thoughts within and feel the energy flowing within. Feel that subtle energy, the energy that is coming from the core of my being. I am this pure, conscient being. This source of pure energy seated in the forehead, behind the eyes. I, this spiritual being, like a star, radiating pure energy of peace and goodwill. Let me feel this energy of peace and tranquility. This energy flowing throughout the body and beyond. See myself as this sparkling star, just radiating this pure, peaceful energy. And as I radiate this energy, feel that I'm not alone. I am in the company of the Supreme Being and all the other spiritual beings that are radiating pure, peaceful energy. So it's like together we are radiating the energy of silence and calmness and balm to the whole world. The world that is in such need of the pure energy of peace and silence. And so I stay for a moment just in my own silence, stillness, tranquility. Om Shanti.
Thank you so much. And this opportunity to reflect together and to keep that beautiful feeling in our hearts as we carry on with the next scene, and maybe to write down also what is our plan, if you like, because I think that always consolidates, and to come back to it. And it's like seeing how I am in connection with what my aim is, and as so beautifully shared, it's connecting to others very much. It starts with myself. So thank you once again to Wendy and Louisa for sharing your experiences from the heart, and also to everyone for creating this time and sharing your presence and reflections.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, very definitely. Thank you.
It's the magic of technology that we can create these meetings, and that of the situation that's given us the idea to do it, which we didn't have before. So things are beneficial already. So I would just like to share about in 2 weeks' time, we will be in discussion with Mara Gomez from Lisbon and in Portugal, and Mark from Worthing, and we'll be sharing on life's hidden meaning. So also interested in astrology, I think, so might be picking up on some of Louisa's inspiration too. So have a really beautiful rest of the evening, and enjoy, and good luck with your your resolutions for change. And see you next time. Bye. Thank you all.